Okay, interview with Calum McIntyre. Well, Calum, obviously an opening day defeat for us today. What's your thoughts on the side's performance?
Fundamentally disappointing result, first and foremost, regardless of away records, an away record that we've been very, very proud of. Disappointed on the opening day. There was a lot of enthusiasm, but it was terrific enthusiasm from a real number of travelling supporters. Very, very disappointed to lose a game without scoring, and lose a game in the manner we have in terms of the goals conceded. More disappointed about the performance. Some real stuff for me to reflect on as to how we make sure that performance doesn't happen again.
It was a scrappy first half, wasn't it? Obviously not helped by the wet conditions, but you had some really good chances to take the lead there, didn't you?
I think the games at the beginning of the season and the end of the season often lack quality. So I talked about that around the bank holiday fixtures around Easter last season, and I think the early games reflect that, because you feel like you're playing blind a little bit. Opposition, there's no context. For all we know, Bishop Stortford are going to win 46 games and be champions. The fact they're newly promoted means there's real momentum. You saw how Banbury started last year, you saw how Peterborough Sport started last year. So not overly wrapped up in anything like that. But the first half, there arm wrestles, and neither side really got on top in that. In the second half, I think the moment where the results has changed, and I think the result and the performance are potentially two different things. Disappointed for the performance in different ways than perhaps what's affected the result. The ball has come into the box twice. First time when Matty Williams isn't on the pitch after he's come off with an injury. The second time when both Matty Williams and Harrison Burke aren't on the pitch. It's very difficult to defend your 18-yard box when two players like that in your defensive unit aren't on the pitch. That's the nature of how we have to do things. We have to have a small squad to try and get as much quality as we can, and what you bring on isn't necessarily like for like in terms of style. That two real aerial presences, big part of the defensive unit, come off the pitch, and I think that's where, if you look at the areas where the goals are scored from, one from a set play that comes across, and the other one from a big ball into an area, it becomes very, very difficult to defend without that person on the pitch.
And before that, obviously, apart from the two ones that are cleared off the line in the first half, there weren't too many chances in the game as a whole, were there?
No, and I think that's more an issue around the performance, that we've created one from a set play ourselves, well-worked set piece, and right at the death we've had a shot which with the goalkeeper. The reality is that stuff around the performance isn't why we've lost the game. It might be why we've not won it, why we haven't troubled the goalkeeper enough, didn't execute things with quality, and a performance that I don't think we've done very often in my time here, where we aren't at the races. And I don't mean we're not at the races for long spells. I mean, over the course of 90 minutes we haven't been able to dominate, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating for me, frustrating for the players, they feel it in there, frustrating for the supporters. I think everything always feels worse and a bit more intense on the opening game of the season. The work now is the fact we've got 45 more games, and that type of performance needs to not be the norm, and it hasn't been the norm in my time here. It hasn't been the norm with that group of players in here. There's a lot of quality in there, and we've got to make sure we do the stuff on the training ground to make sure that we're better next time out. But yeah, frustration at the lack of chances created, frustration at a lack of quality in key moments, the frustration that the result comes from things that you can't control. And look, there's moments in the game. I don't think you never talk about officials when you get beat. I think that looks really poor, and I've always credited myself on not doing that. I just think there needs to be some real clarity about these initiatives that are coming out and are being promoted from the FA, because I certainly will be seeking some education, because some of the things I've seen over the course of the 90 minutes are very different than what I sat in a room and was taught that about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'll certainly be trying to educate myself, and I hope that's for everyone across, because it's that'll be really disappointing if a lot of what I saw today for both sides is going to become the norm. That's certainly not the game that we all love.
Early doors, I know, but obviously with Matty coming off and then Harrison, it's very rare to lose two centre backs in quick succession like that, isn't it? With Kev out injured, is that a concern for you?
Yeah, massive concern. The reality is for us, we did some really, really good business in the summer, and I'm really pleased with the squad on the whole, but it is a small squad, and that's where we have to be financially. For us to compete, I said it during the week, didn't I? And I've said it at times. I know obviously I didn't get to speak to you during the week. Resource-wise, we've got no more to spend this year than we had last year. Quite rightly, there's bigger expectation. The expectation should be that we build on what we did last year, because we did that on the same funds. But the reality is injuries hit our small squad really, really hard. That, like you say, George Glendon perhaps isn't far away. Kev Roberts is 3 or 4 weeks away. We've probably lost 2 centre halves there for at least the next 3 or 4 weeks. It becomes really, really difficult, and we have to look at how we change that. But the reality is, with some things that have gone on off the pitch and stuff, it's difficult to have any more resource to throw at that. So we'll patch up, we'll do what we can. Always take responsibility when we don't play well, when we don't get the right results. Today's no different. My biggest disappointment, twofold. Firstly, for the supporters that travelled real numbers, got right behind us on the opening day of the season. You almost feel like you sucked the enthusiasm out of the season ahead after an hour and a half. And equally disappointed for the players that perhaps haven't showcased the best version of themselves. My job is to make sure we're better during the week, we're better next Saturday, ahead of a Saturday-Tuesday double-header at home.
We were very consistent last season, obviously, in finishing third, and we always reacted well to the defeat. So is that what you're expecting again?
I'd hope so, knowing the personality of the group, knowing the character of the group. There's loads that we can all do better today. I've said that before in games that we've won. The frustration is where the results perhaps been taken away from us is stuff that it's very, very difficult to defend differently than when two big parts of that defensive unit come out of the team, like I say. But I do want us to be better on the whole. I think it'd be really, really disingenuous to suggest that performance was okay and we've made 2 changes and that's why the ball's gone in the net. We were off colour, we were a bit disjointed, and I think the big thing is we lacked quality from players that have got real quality. Those days happen at this level of football. We've got to make sure that those days, they only happened 6 times last year in terms of a defeat. We've got to make sure that that's certainly not something that creeps into our game. That lands on me, and I'm really looking forward to the challenge of correcting that this week ahead of that Saturday-Tuesday double-header.
A bit different for you that you've got another pre-season friendly, if you like, on Monday against Manchester United.
Yeah, I'm really pleased that we have. For reasons that I've seen there, it's been a bit of a stop-start pre-season for some of the individuals. So Matty Williams goes down there. We've been nursing him through a shoulder injury, an ankle injury. It's been really difficult for him. Louis Earle missed the first part of pre-season. You've seen George Glendon, who's been eased back into things. There's lads there that need minutes, and particularly for the exact reason of what happens today, that disaster strikes and players are going to be thrown into the team next week in really tricky circumstances through injuries. The reality is you want them to be sharp, and what we felt last year is the way it played out over the opening 6 games, where we lost a lot of players to injuries, 6 or 7 at the time, that a lack of football for those lads that perhaps weren't ready to jump straight back in. So there's that game on Monday, so it'll be 11 changes. I can tell you our team for that now, it'll be 11 different players that started the game today, with hopefully one interesting inclusion in that team that I'm certainly looking forward to getting out on the pitch. But we've just got to move on. But you can't just move on and ignore what you've seen. That, like I say, that's never been me. Always try and be quite analytical and come and speak to you. But that was disappointing. In terms of performance, the result is disappointing for different reasons.
Will it force your hand, the injuries to Matty Williams and Harrison, to maybe look into the loan market to bring in a centre-half as cover maybe? Yeah, but limited to what we can do. Really limited to what we can do, and that's been the case from the day I took the job. And that's a challenge. And what is challenging is meeting expectation with resource, because there is quite rightly massive expectation. I relish that. I've really enjoyed that over the pre-season period and continue to enjoy that, but to match that expectation there perhaps needs to be the resource there to do it. So yeah, we might look to do something. Let's see what the next few days bring. I think the immediate bit for me is, yes, look at where we might need to add players to the group, but we do have a group there of real quality. That disappointed for them, they've not showcased themselves the way that I know they can. What I know about the group and the change room, what we've established, our principles, our personality, if you like, our identity, we didn't show enough today. Okay, we've got 45 more games to do that, and where I'm excited, yes, there's a friendly on Monday, but certainly the league action, there's a Saturday, Tuesday against 2 sides, and I don't believe any side that finished in a playoff position last year was a winner today, which is interesting. I think that perhaps there's a little bit of that, and where we might need to adjust is teams are really going to want to beat us, whereas me and you both know for 30 games no one had any respect for us, any respect for the way we played. We got massive respect off a side that was speaking about how we're full-time. Hey, we're really not. It's a great soundbite for people, but we're really, really not. We've not really evolved in that way as much as we might like. But the reality is we need to be better, and I'm looking forward to the challenge this week to make sure that we're better ahead of that Saturday, Tuesday. But I just think it's interesting, and when you take stock of the results, there's a couple of clubs there that will be seen as scalps. We were certainly one of them today. It's proper banana skin on the opening day of the season. But that's interesting that of those 6 playoff clubs, whatever it ends up being, the ones that are still in the division, no winners from that pack. Interesting, food for thought for us all. Calum, thanks for joining us.
Cheers, thank you.